Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Ascendance Aftershow. I am your host, Sam, with co host Josh over here. And we're here to talk about episode 9, season 5 of Ascendance. How are you, Josh?
Doing really well. It's Canadian Thanksgiving, as you well know, Sam, being from Canada as well. So we had a nice long weekend and lots of turkey and family and all that good stuff. So it was nice to catch up on an episode of Ascendance and be able to like digest it all and try to really watch it for the first time as a viewer, as a fan,
Mm-hmm.
more so now that I made my exit last week. So
Yeah. Okay. So while I have you here, it's interesting to think about. Yeah, now you get to watch it like fresh eyes. How was that? How was that experience of now that you're out of the thing? That like there's less stakes, there's less pressure, I
Mhm.
guess, in a way. I don't know. Tell me about it.
Yeah, it was weird for sure because like not that I'm not invested. I'm very much invested because I was still there. I still love everybody who's left. Like I'm rooting for everyone. But like I'm not on the screen anymore, so like I'm a little less invested because I'm not seeing myself, which is not to say the season's not great. So but it also was weird because I was like just watching it neutrally because I don't know what happened really except for the snippets that I was told like afterwards. Like I don't remember being told about this captain's challenge. I remember kind of being able to watch the team challenge from like the front steps of the vote out villa. So yeah, it was just a new experience because I was watching without as much of a vested interest because I'm not rooting for myself. Obviously, knowing what happens, it's fine. But yeah, so it was unique. It was definitely unique to be able to watch it with just like a neutral viewpoint.
Mm-hmm. No, that's cool.
Mhm.
I mean, you know what I mean. Like, yay, you're out. Glad you get to not watch
Yeah.
yourself anymore. But okay, cool.
Kind of
I'm
had a week
sure.
to I had a week to
Yeah.
process the elimination. We got to watch it together. I got to cry a bit more. I got to watch my photo villa and see all that from like an outside perspective, which was cool. But yeah, now I'm ready to dive into new episodes and new
Yeah.
storylines.
Yeah. All right. Well, I think we've kept I've kept our guest waiting long enough. I'm just asking questions over here. But here to talk about us is the one of the main stars of the episode, and that is Duke.
Yo.
Welcome to the after show.
Oh my God, guys. Thank you for having me on the after show. I've been watching all of them as they come out on the channel, and I'm so stoked to be a part of another one.
Yeah, I'm excited to have you here. Like, sad of like the nature of the topic that we need to talk about, because
Super
ultimately you know, we we know how this episode ends. We're gonna talk about it. But I am in a way I'm glad that I don't know. For some reason, a lot of these rounds they kind of start to blend in into one another. But this one, I just remember a lot of this really clearly. So, Josh, me and Duke, we can take you on the story, the ins and outs of all the stuff that you didn't get to see go down because like there's just a lot going on this round.
Yeah,
Yeah, we're gonna talk
it
about
seemed
it.
like a to me it seemed like a I don't know, maybe it's just because like the pacing of it seemed really fast. And to me I was like there must have been a lot going down like outside of the main conversations of like the elimination and maybe it's just because the challenges took a long time. I don't know, but I felt like the strategy portion and maybe it's just because there's fewer people was really really short. And
Mhm.
I don't know if it felt like that in the moments.
For me,
Yeah.
it definitely did. I will say that I thought that this episode in totality was really great because it comes off of the triple, the double. Now you get just one single elimination finally, and you can kind of see where all the people that were in the elimination kind of where their heads are at. Whereas the past couple episodes, I was kind of like a little confused on what was going on everywhere with all the different teams, and there was multiple eliminations and everything. So this was kind of, even though the outcome wasn't great, everybody was rooting for me. So,
Yeah, maybe to your point, maybe that's what it was, is that we're focused on a single team going to a single elimination, as opposed to, we went right from the triple to, the safety chain. So there was a lot going on, to the battle back, to the double. So like, this is the first time in, for us in the game, it was an entire day. This was the first time in like an entire day where we only had one round, one elimination. So maybe that's why it felt, the pacing of it. Did you guys feel that, like, I guess you find out that the jury is starting, which I told Sam last week. I was still downstairs in the basement of the house after I had been voted out, and I hear cheering and clapping, and I was like, oh, they just got told that they made the jury. And so to like see that from the upstairs, like to see you guys find that information out, was like really cool and exciting, because that's obviously everyone's goals. Did you guys feel like, with everything going on, that the game was sort of, this was the round where everything was going to start moving really fast?
Kind of yes and no. I think for me personally, I'm starting to finally feel like, no, I don't know. Sorry. I'm trying to like actually think where my brain was in that moment, and not just like retcon,
Mm-hmm.
or be biased about it. But okay, the point that I'm trying to make is that there's a point in the game where I feel like, okay, I think I might be starting to like get a feel for like where the lines are being drawn and who's where and all this stuff. I don't know at what point, like in this episode, like that kind of like we kind of steer towards that way. But I know, Josh, would you leave and I don't know. And then like in this episode, I'm seeing like me trying to like help Duke in any way that I can, but I can't remember if in the moment I knew kind of what was happening. I have to assume that I did, but anyways, I'm kind of rambling because I'm realizing that the moment that I'm trying to think of, I don't know that it's here, and so I don't want to spoil anything because I'm not sure, which is why I'm being all weird and cryptic about this. So let's move on. This episode opens with Julia being like, I got this thing. Duke,
Thanks,
I wanted to ask
Sorry.
you, did you have any theories or any ideas like about what had happened to that once Josh left with it? Like, where was your head at with that?
So, Josh leaving the game was definitely a huge hit for me in general, because Josh was like, if not my top ally, like one of the top allies that I had. But I would have thought that he would have stood up and willed it, right? Because that's usually how the powers go in Ascendance. And when he didn't, I was like, oh, well, that's the end of that. I guess he's just taking it with him. So to find out later in the game, that it was willed secretly to Julia was a shock for me, for sure, because I don't think that's ever happened in the series. So I was shocked, for sure.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, same. It wasn't something that I had even like crossed my mind. It wasn't something that was on my radar to even think about. So yeah.
To be fair,
cool
I think, if I'm remembering, it's only been in seasons 4 and 5. And so I think I was the first person ever to be voted out with it in their pocket, because I know Michael used it on Taisha last season. So I don't think it ever got to the point where somebody would be able to will it secretly. So nobody knew that was a possibility. And I didn't tell anybody, because I was like, I need to keep that information, in my back pocket, so that, it's a surprise and people are like, okay, it's gone. And then that way, whoever gets it, they have more cover, right? Of like, I've now willed it in secret. Nobody's going to know that they have it unless they tell, the people around them. So it definitely was the list of names rolling through my brain as I was like walking out the door of like, who do I give this to? Pretty much was just like the 5 of you that I was close with in the game. So
only just because I'm currently doing a rewatch, season 3, Emily Pitch has the Ascendance advantage,
right.
but she uses it as an extra vote,
Yep.
I believe, or a steal vote, but I think it's an extra vote. The round, I don't know. If you haven't watched season 3, no spoilers, but
if you haven't watched it by
small
now,
spoiler.
I mean, come on.
Yeah, no,
Go back
true.
and check it out.
Yeah, but anyways, I just know that she uses it successfully, unsuccessfully, who knows, but she used it.
Unsuccessful.
It wasn't successful.
So, my point stands, though. I still was the first person voted out with it. So
yes. So you're saying, Josh, that they had that was a part of the power when they had it potentially, but they just never were voted out with it.
correct. Yeah. It says right on it, like this can be willed once you're voted out, which I personally never thought I was gonna have to do. But you know, the game doesn't always go as we plan.
Yeah, clearly. So Duke, I wanted to know too from you, what was the rationale behind like you deciding to use your reveal about power here? You mentioned in a confessional you were hoping to like either uncover things or like you had just talk to me more about that. What made the decision?
Yeah, so the reveal vote, once I play it here, the reason behind it was kind of twofold. I was not working closely with Lance in the game up to this point, and I felt very close to Oakley at this point in the game. And when Sky had come back into the game from the battle back, she was very adamant that Lance was telling the truth about his vote during her elimination, and Oakley was lying. And I felt close with Oakley at this point, and he was saying, you know, they're framing me, basically. And I was like, do you want me to use this reveal vote to help you out, to kind of, and also put a little bit of target on Lance for lying? I thought that would be a smart decision. I just think maybe the timing was off for this play. But I was basically twofold. I was trying to help Oakley while also hurt Lance.
Mm-hmm. So, kind of little behind the scenes that happens when Bergen picks the teams, and I don't know if all of our teammates were there, but at least like the majority of the team was there. With me, Sky, Oakley. Well, Oakley wasn't there. But anyways, the team that Oakley is on with me and Sky, and I forget who else, but we're like, okay, we're throwing this. We're like, yeah, we're throwing this 100%. And so that's why ultimately me and Sky choose the solving position at the end, because like one of us, I'll be blindfolded, she'll be directing me, we'll have full control over how well we want to do. And then we go so like the teams get picked, and then just before we're about to go and compete in the team challenge, that's when your power gets used. So between going outside, so between like the power gets used and between the team challenge starting, we're like, abort plan, because the whole plan was, okay, well, we're going to throw because we have a target on this team and it will keep the rest of the 6 safe. But with that getting kind of shaken up, and the very solid reasoning is kind of like, well, what are we doing here? No, let's just go for it. Like, you know, we're set up on either side. We're good. So whatever happens, happens. And yeah, so it kind of, at the very least, changed what me and Sky were doing.
Yeah, I definitely think playing it shot myself in the foot a little bit, but with the information that I had in that moment, I still would not have changed it. I thought that Oakley would be a good ally for me. So trying to help him in that way was the reasoning. I tried to use the reveal vote earlier in the season to kind of gain favor with some people. Like I had gotten a rogue vote in like the first elimination, as well as Maddie, I think got a rogue vote. So I was trying to build something with Maddie and say like, you know, do you want me to use this reveal vote so we can figure it out? Like what was going on in that vote and kind of, and he was more like, you know what? I don't want to know. So I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
Which would have been interesting because the mob all voted for each other. And
Yeah.
so if you had used the reveal a vote for that vote, they would have found out, and maybe, they
Yeah.
don't work so closely together there.
Seems like the mob is not working closely together no matter what. So I feel like.
But it's still like, to me, it still feels like one of those things that like they have that connection of like, hey, you know what? If nothing else ends up working out, like at least we can fall back on that
Yeah.
relationship. I was gonna say also, like, you playing that vote whilst the end result of the episode, or sorry, that advantage, I mean, the end result of the episode doesn't work out in your favor, and you ultimately, Red decides not to throw the challenge. They could have still lost, right? They could have still lost. Maybe your name doesn't come out. So like at the time, it feels like the right call based on who you're, aligned with, as you said. Now, my one question is, though, because we kind of jumped right over the captain's challenge, was going to be, can you explain the captain's challenge to me? Because I was trying to follow along, and maybe I just like looked away for a second, or like looked at my phone for a second. I don't know. But all of a sudden it's starting, and I'm like, wait, what is the goal? Like, what are you trying to accomplish here? Because all I see is people running around and like digging in baskets, and I'm like, help.
Yeah.
So like, was it like a fun challenge? Like, explain, like, what did you guys have to do?
I think it was a fun challenge. I think it was a challenge that you kind of could, you're picking basically your opponent, number one, so you can kind of tell who doesn't want you to win the captain, because they're going against you. But basically, in the first room where all the voting happens, you're searching for an item. It could be any item, and then you go into the next room and you're trying to find a match to that item. And basically, once you do that, you ring in, and whoever does that first is the winner of that round. And then I think you go back to the back of the line, and then the next person in the line chooses who they want to go up against, or something like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
So yeah, knockout style that way. And yeah, I think like the order of the line was like randomly like determined. And then I think while watching it back, what I kind of forgot was you picked an item, you had to leave it on like the living room side of the upstairs on a stool there, and then you had to remember like the fine details of like that item when you went and searched in the other half, and then when you put it on the other stool you'd lock in. Am I remembering that correctly?
That
Yep.
seemed like what was happening.
Okay.
Like, I would have liked to have seen some of that, like, precursor of like, oh, how do you get for it to be Maddie and Oakley as the first pairing? How do you get, watching people make those picks, like maybe getting a little more insight into the behind the scenes of that challenge.
Mm-hmm.
And like I couldn't really see like what the items were that you guys were trying to match.
Mm-hmm.
So it kind of was a little confusing. Did you guys feel like, I guess because both of you were competing, was there a lot of like strategy time that you got to like figure out who you wanted to go up against, or was it really only like you have to pick someone and then you move on?
My experience with it was so I can't remember exactly how open we were being about it, but I feel like we were being kind of obnoxious, but maybe not. But it was just pretty like universally agreed upon, or at least that's what everyone was making it seem like, that we'll just keep kind of picking Oakley because we wanted Oakley to remain as like the target, so we try to knock him out. And at least within like the whoever in the six, that was like, yeah, we were all competing in that one. Yeah. So that was, that's like the strategy that was happening. But he was just right there. Like, were we just talking about it in front of him? Like, I think so. I don't know. But I remember talking about it.
Yeah. The only other thing that I was thinking about during this challenge, at this point, do we know Dave's power? That Dave has a power, or no?
Yes, I think he found that, or like the captain one.
Yeah.
Yeah, I believe he talks about it in one of the earlier episodes when he finds it.
Yeah.
So I don't know if the players know, but the audience at this point knows.
Yeah. I think I learned about it. Definitely. Oh yeah, because the next round. Yeah, I think I know about it at this time.
Yeah. So the only thing that I was thinking about during this, like, kind of picking thing, and it never even came to fruition because I was chosen so early on multiple times, was choosing Dave and then throwing it to him just because I knew he had that and he was debating using it no matter what. That's what he had told me coming into this competition. But yeah, it never even came to fruition. I was chosen pretty early on, multiple times.
Yeah, we do.
See, I don't remember. Like, I think if you weren't in the alliance, they're probably going for you, and if you were in the alliance, you're probably going for Oakley. It's kind of the vibe I'm getting here.
For sure. And it did seem like it was nice to see you all sticking together still a little bit after
Was that what you called that?
Well, kind of. Sticking together in broad terms. What was I going to say?
There's a knife somewhere in my back, I think. Gosh.
Hey, there was one in mine too. She didn't end up revealing that she used the knife, but Julia definitely was the main reason why I was not in that game anymore.
Somebody needs to confiscate all the weapons out of Julia's hands, I think.
Yeah, I think
she's
so.
got plenty of knives.
I think she's coming up, not to spoil future episodes, but I think she's making an appearance in a little while on the show here. So we can ask her about where she got all those weapons from.
Yes, I know.
Yeah, ask her for
we keep asking Julie to come on, but it's just like scheduling, being an adult is hard.
Yeah.
So many responsibilities.
She's busy sharpening her knives.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly. But yeah,
The
stay tuned. We got a guest spot open for her soon.
The one moment of collusion that we really do see is when you go up against Berg and Sam, which is like, I think there's probably 4 or 5 of you left at this point in the challenge. You guys rig it. Why did you choose Bergen, do you remember, to win instead of you? Like, why didn't you say, okay, like, we'll set this up for me?
Because Oakley was still in. I thought Bergen had a better shot of beating Oakley than I did. And so we used that time to try to set him up for like the final round. And then I was like, yeah, knock me out so that you can just finish the job, essentially.
That was smart. I didn't know that happened.
Yeah, well used.
It happened. I watching it, I was like, oh, look at that. We are so cute.
Yeah, so I mean it works, right? Bergen ends up winning captain and picking the teams going into this solve it. I don't remember what the name of it is. This puzzle relay challenge that we've seen a few times, I think, in Ascendance before. So that's it's a fun challenge to watch. I really enjoyed it because as watching it, picturing like, oh, what position would have I chosen if I was still in this challenge? Like what leg of the relay would I have taken? It seemed like it was a fairly closely run challenge. Was it like that from the get-go, like neck and neck the whole time, or did anybody feel like they had a lead? What do you guys remember from the challenge?
I felt like I smashed Oakley in the running. He was not even close.
You did a lot of running, Duke. I think that's like gonna be your like highlight from Ascendance, is just running up and down those hills. Do you feel like you got typecast?
Yeah, I think they said there's hills. Let's get Duke.
I mean, anytime that I was in a situation where you were available to do the running, you just, you should have just like weaponized incompetence that whole thing if you didn't want to run again, because we're like, he's not bad. You just keep doing it.
I should have.
Good enough.
I should have faked an injury.
Yeah.
I think that was the move.
No, but like in all seriousness though, like thank goodness, because if you weren't like physically capable of doing the running, like a lot of us would have been in trouble. And maybe needed to lay down for 2 hours after every physical challenge. But yeah,
breaks, you can take breaks on the hills.
What I wanted to say for like in terms of like where like how close the challenge was, it was interesting to see that it was close up until like the end puzzle part, because like I really wasn't sure, but the what got me in Sky, what's the word I'm looking for, just I guess like the speed advantage was just our communication and me like her being able to tell me / me figure out by just feeling the pieces that like we're not sorting by color, we're sorting, obviously I can't see things, but we're sorting by shape, and so like that pretty big error on like German and Charlie's part, although I can't really say it's on Charlie because Charlie's blindfolded. But besides the point is that they spend all this time building it wrong, where, you know, if they were building it correctly, then we probably would have been like a lot closer. But like whatever lead that you kind of got with the running was kind of trashed with the puzzle from my perspective.
Now, Sam, did they tell you like, yo, you guys, you're doing this in shapes, or did they say you're doing it in colors?
No. So they didn't. I didn't know anything.
But did Sky know anything?
Well, she wasn't blindfolded.
So she could like it was what they were doing was wrong, no matter.
Oh yeah,
the colors, the color scheme was wrong.
Yeah. So I guess you could say that we just assumed, or like but like Sky just assumed that that's how it would go back together. Rewatching season 3, we see those same puzzle pieces in the same type of relay challenge. So it could also just be recognizing the puzzle.
Yeah, I was going to say it's shown up in at least one other season. So Sky probably knew that going in, I would assume.
Yeah.
But you would think that they would have to clarify that, right? Just because the pieces could have fit if it was all just color based as well as shapes, or it wouldn't have fit no matter if you had to do it that.
No, it has to be shapes, I think, because it's like you put the squares together and the circles together and the 3 different shapes, right?
Yeah, like the size of like, or I don't know, the way that they had it going, it didn't look like it was ever going to line up. But I actually don't know for sure. Yeah. No, these are interesting questions, actually. Yeah. But so as Sky's telling me, like grabbing like these pieces, I can already start to tell that they're like they feel different. And as I like understanding what she's having me do, I don't know what came over me because my brain never works this way, but it was almost like I could control both sides of my brain, where like she was just directing me with this hand. So I was like finding stuff, but then with this hand, I knew there was pieces. So I was kind of like sorting like in like what I could feel as I was like doing this. And so it was just really cool. It was fun to watch too.
Sam, go into a whole nother mode.
Yeah, I gotta applaud you because these are back-to-back episodes where you dominate blind puzzles, basically. So
yeah,
you got a knack for it.
Yeah, like my coffees.
I think the moral of the story is don't be on the opposite team as Sam on a puzzle challenge. You want to be on Sam's team for a puzzle challenge, which neither Duke or I were.
Yeah, that's a good moral of the story.
Yeah. So obviously the challenge ends. It's very clear. It's one team going to elimination because you only have 2 teams. Only one team can win. How quickly did you get the sense, Duke, that maybe you were in trouble here? Like, was it fairly quickly? Like, again, they only give us like 10 minutes, maybe 15 minutes, right? For the strategy portion. So how quickly did you hear your name get floated out?
I had a feeling that I would be voted or be in trouble before the challenge actually ended. I just didn't feel good with the 3 guys, basically Charlie, Lance, and German. And I didn't feel great about it because German and Charlie had chosen me in the captain's challenge to go against me. So I was like, they don't want me to win captain. They're not obviously in that alliance with us. So the writing's kind of on the wall with that. And I was telling Oakley that before we started running that I was like, I don't feel great about this team. And he didn't feel great about his team, I guess rightfully so too. But yeah, it was, I thought from the beginning, I really wanted to win the challenge because I didn't feel great about it. And it was going to be an uphill battle. But, from my perspective, I felt like I at least had Bergen and Julia's votes no matter what. So that's
I was really focused on not laughing at uphill battle because it was like literal and figurative. And then when you finished talking, I was like, oh, I don't need to like have like, I'm like, okay. Anyways, I was still in like don't laugh mode, but it was over. But yeah, no, I uphill battle for sure.
I didn't even try to do that. Like that would just come off the dome.
Yeah. So the conversation that you have, Julia and Charlie, maybe, where I think it's with them too, but you're proposing like a 2-2 split with German, like 2 on German. Who are the other 2? Like I'm missing like a person.
Yeah, so right before we went down into that room, Charlie was asking me who did I want to vote for, and I was telling him German. And then we get into that room, and those were the people that I thought initially I had to have on my side to get through the round, was those 3, being Charlie, Julia, and Bergen. So I was proposing to split the vote 2-2 to whoever they voted for. I was assuming it would be me. On Lance and German. Little did I know that Charlie, has he was playing much better than I thought at the time, and he had more connections than I had initially thought.
It's interesting because I was thinking about that as we were sort of going through the team challenge and breaking it down. Like Julia, German, and Charlie were all just on a team together. Except for Julia, all just voted me out, right? So like. It's interesting looking back and watching of like, oh, there were definitely signs that those 3 were close and working together. But obviously in game, this is what, like maybe an hour, later, real time. So it's hard to definitely see, like, you can obviously take a step back after everything's over and be like, oh, I should have seen this connection and that connection. But when you're like right in the moment, you're like, okay, here's the cards I have in my hand. Like I gotta make them work somehow.
Yeah. And also like, I think I had a hard time. The game's so fast. So I had a hard time viewing, the game not from just my perspective. So my perspective in that moment was these are the 3 people that I need to be voting with in this particular vote, not taking into account, even what people that I thought were closest to me, like Bergen, specifically, and Julia, what they would have preferred happen. Like I just thought Charlie would be the person that we had to bring in, whereas maybe they had a different idea. I don't know.
Yeah, it's definitely hard to step out of yourself. Like even, I know, going back to the safety chain, for me, it was so hard to step out of my own perspective because I was just so afraid, right? Like I felt really bad watching that back and coming back and reflecting on it of like, I probably came off as such an asshole to these people because I was just trying to strong arm whatever I wanted and didn't really think about what everybody else was doing. And so like, yeah, it's definitely hard to like be like, what's best for me, but what's also going to be best for these other people to get them to work with me and vote with me and trust me, which I think is such the hardest part of these games. It's so difficult.
Because there's also times where you have to have that mindset, where you have to be the driving force to save yourself. It's hard to tell when those are the times that you need to be doing that. But yeah, it's definitely a balancing act.
It is. Yeah. And just to add to that, with just how Ascendance is structured with the teams constantly changing, it's like, it's almost like these, just picture like little science experiments. So every time we have a round and it's a new set of people and a new set of variables. And so, okay, this is what this person does under pressure, or but then you're changing up some of enough of the variables the next round that you can't necessarily rely on a similar outcome to a similar situation when, so where that line is and where that balance is, like the mark's always changing. So it is, yeah. Play the game before the game plays you is just such a apt description of like the spirit of Ascendance, because like it's easier said than done. Like and you almost have to very decisively just pick the direction that you want to go in. Okay, this is the strategy. So like, you jumping in there with okay, well, what if we do this? Like, you don't really have time to sit back and think about it like, oh, a 2-2-2 split. Like, if you think it's something viable, you have 15 minutes. You got to go for it. Like, what else are you going to do?
Yeah.
And it's go ahead, Duke.
Go ahead, Joe. Oh, I think the game itself, it's so like the number one thing that you have to be successful is adaptability, because it's so everything changes on a dime. So knowing when to play hard and push your agenda versus lay back and listen to what your allies maybe want to do in the moment, it's really hard, but it's such a game of feel at certain points. And yeah, I mean, some can do it and some kind of falter.
And it's that balance of, again, it's play the game before the game plays you, but at this point there's 11 of you left, and so everybody's thinking the same thing. And so it's like, okay, well, I'm trying to do that, and then you're trying to do that, but maybe our ways of doing that are different. And you think that your agenda or what your allies are doing is what's going on and being the driving force, but then all of a sudden you realize that no, somebody else has got there first. You know what I mean? And it's just you can think that you figured out the balance point, but then somebody steps on your end of the spectrum, and all of a sudden it's tilted against you. You know what I mean? So it just, and some of those people were so good at this game. Like, I mean, I think we all did our best, but I don't know. Some of those people just were doing things that I had no idea were happening.
Some were playing chess, others were playing checkers.
Which is why I ended up in the vote at Villa, not on the jury.
And to be fair, the point that I make about Duke, you playing your reveal about power, and how that like ultimately affected like the outcome of the round in a way that like you really couldn't not have expected. I don't think that's not something that like clicked into my brain until like way after, like the game was over, and I was like, oh my god, like wait a minute, did that actually happen? And so like that was completely over my but it went completely over my head, and I just had like this epiphany. I was like, oh no. Yeah.
How quickly did that set in for you? Like, how quickly did you realize that was a driving force of why you ended up leaving?
Not until after the season. I had no idea that was in the works. Like, if I had caught wind that the other team was going to throw the challenge to vote out Oakley, I can't say that I would have played it. I probably wouldn't have. But Josh, you leave right when the jury begins, and it's like, okay, maybe in the back of my head, I'm like, I just want to play. Like, I want to play. Like up to that point, I felt like I hadn't, really sunk my teeth into the game or like made a huge move. And I was like, maybe I just want to play this power now to kind of shake some shit up and like play like a little bit harder. But yeah, not until after the game did I realize that I had kind of fucked myself a little bit.
Yeah.
And
it's like we can laugh about it. Well, I don't want to speak for you, Duke, but like I can laugh about it. But like I hope that I don't want to like. I hope we're all laughing together, and if we're not,
I think it's hilarious.
Be like, it's not
my
cool.
friends and family think it's hilarious.
Okay.
Yeah, and it's one of those things that's like that. Those little tiny things, like, and you can't help but think back of like, what if I didn't play it? You know what I mean? Like, if you didn't play it, you're probably still in the game. They throw the challenge, Oakley goes, you're fine. And I like think back to, obviously we find out through talking with Charlie last week, Julia spills the beans about my advantage to him, which ultimately causes me to go down. And I had said to myself when I got that advantage, I'm like, I'm telling nobody. And then I told you and Sky and you and Sam, the two of you, I told the two of you really quickly. And I was like, okay, well, now I have to tell Sky. Okay, well, now I've got to tell Birkin. And now I'm like, oh, well, I should tell Julia because like she's in the 6 with us. And if I had just like reined that in of like, okay, I can tell Sam and Duke and that's it. Maybe, what happens to me doesn't happen. So it's those like tiny little like butterfly effect things, right? That it's like, it's so hard not to be like, what if? But it also is fun to look back and be like, they got me.
I have a confession to make. So you telling me about
confession?
No, I'm just exposing myself. But like, just because like it's not that deep. But I don't really remember like you telling me about the Ascendance advantage. Like that's a huge thing. Like that's a big thing. I don't really remember. Like, how do I not remember? Like there was just so much going on and so much information and so many things going like that. It's like I knew it, but it was just never at the forefront of my mind in the way that it probably should have been, because it was just like it's a tool in the game that I know of. But
which is funny you say that, because I'm pretty sure we had conversations where like I remember telling you very quickly, Sam, and then I remember like in I want to say like the triple or something. I don't know. There was some round and I'm pretty sure I went to you and I was like, I looked you dead in the face. I was like, Sam, if you need it, we have my advantage. Like, I'll play it for you. I've got you. Like, cause I was captain. So I was like, that's fine. Like, I will use it however. And I remember saying that to you. I was like, Sam, if you feel like you're in danger, you feel like you need it, I've got it. We're good. And especially through the safety chain as well, was like, I can give somebody this advantage if they need it.
At that point, I remember. Like at that point, I was kind of like more with it. But like just when you had first like told me Duke about it, is that's I just like
there's so much information going on that sometimes like shit slips out. Like
that's a big one though.
Yeah. I do remember though. I don't know if you guys remember this. The very first night, I remember seeing both of you, and I was like, these are good people. And I think we were out on the pad, like the balcony out by the kitchen, and I think you two were like the first people that I said in the game, I was like, you two, like I want this to be a thing. And I wish that we'd stuck to it a bit more, because I feel like this trio got lost in the kerfuffle of the game.
Yes. And that's a big part of the game too, with the teams changing, right? Like, we felt good and like we wanted to work together, but we did work together, but we wanted to maybe just not in the way that we would have liked, where we could strategize together on votes and make things happen that way. And yeah, it's just the concept of alliances and Ascendance is just really interesting, because I don't know that we've seen an alliance of 6 attempt to navigate the game. Like I don't know. Maybe Duke, you're a better Ascendance historian, and I can't remember, but like I feel like 5 doesn't usually get bigger than 5.
Yeah, the only one that stands out to me, just because of the way that the format is in season 2. Thomas, Zoe, Taisha, they had, and I think there was 2 others, but maybe that's what the name of it was. I don't remember the names, but I don't know. It was 5, but the thing is, like that was formed like a little bit later into the game. I'm pretty sure all of them made individuals, so it's easier to kind of navigate votes in individuals, whereas we started real early and we were split up on teams. Some of us, fallen soldiers early on.
Yeah. Yeah.
I guess,
Josh, I don't know if I like cut you off or what we were just talking about beforehand, but I can't remember what it was to go back to it.
That's okay. The conversation moves on and we'll continue. I guess we kind of, is there anything else about the round, Duke, where you leave that you wanted to touch on? Like, is there anything else that stands out to you of like important that happened, like conversations or things that were going on that maybe didn't make the final cut?
Well, I'll say this: getting voted out 5-1, I was pretty bummed. I thought that, number one, I was so grateful to have made the jury. And I was so bummed, Josh, when you did not make the jury. And in your speech, it really, I was very saddened by it. So to make the jury, I was excited. But not having seen the episode up until last week, I was kind of like, I felt like I was voted out, just because I didn't have connections with the people that were in this vote. But I feel a lot better now, having seen the reason why people were voting me out. I feel like I didn't give myself enough credit, and seeing that people were like, okay, he's more connected than I thought, was really reassuring. And I was like, okay, I was voted out because I was threatening to people, which is good. I like that, as opposed to how I was feeling post the game. And then the only other thing that I'll say is, I think I had the right intention to play hard going into this one, because I do think that I was in trouble no matter what. I just think that I should have listened maybe a little bit more to Bergen and Julia early on in this round, and kind of leaned on them a little bit more in their preference, because I think I came in a little hot and heavy, and maybe it rubbed a couple people the wrong way. I think I had the right intention, but the wrong practice, basically. So I felt good about the episode overall. I was really happy with how it turned out. And the only other thing I'll say is I'm happy that I feel like Bergen did not want to vote me out in this vote. And I feel like at least I had one person that did not actually want to vote me out. So that was reassuring as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because in the strategy portion, like I feel like Julia and Bergen have a couple of conversations. Like there's like it takes a bit for him to finally come around to feel like, I don't, like, if I don't do this, I don't know how I move forward in my game with, like, just the circumstance that I'm in now, like from Bergen's perspective. So yeah, I definitely like picked up that there was just a lot of like resistance of like,
I think he might have had my back. I think he might have
yeah,
my back.
yeah.
So.
And also I think the night before, having Julia share with Charlie that, so Julia tells Charlie about Josh's Ascendance advantage, which is what kind of starts up, we wake up the next day to and vote, and Josh, wait, was that it was a double, right? Yeah, it was a double in Unicorn, yeah. And so that is what was the catalyst for like that ultimately happening. I lost my train of thought.
That's maybe where she gets her resistance to voting.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah. So like that happening just pulls her even tighter into, well, we see that German and Charlie are tight. And so now she's just kind of even tighter with those two, which, I think she's already kind of primed going into that round, willing to vote you. And the fact that now Bergen, who has expressed like, we can't just ride this 6 out to the end, like as early as like episode 2 or 3, all of these things kind of come together that, like, yeah, it's just you are.
I think it made sense.
You're like an actual threat to their game, and they have like incentives now. Like, there's just all these like reasons why it makes sense for them.
I was also, trying to form a little something on the side with Dave. We all know Dave, and he was one of the people that I was trying to form something with Dave, Maddie, and Charlie. And I think that kind of got out, and people were a little sus of me for that. Mm-hmm. I did want to ask Josh, because Josh, before you left the game, I remember we were going, I don't know if it was during your vote or like we were in between one of the challenges. You were asking me how I felt about the 6. And I was like, I feel good about the 6, but I do want, like, I feel like me, you, and Bergen and should be working. I think Sky had not come back into the game yet.
Yeah, maybe.
And I was like, yeah. I do kind of, I think like when we get the chance, I think we should get Julia out. So I was just wondering if that had ever relayed back to Julia, because then I totally understand.
I don't think so, to be honest. I mean, I can't say I remember. There was
Yeah.
a lot
So
that was
yeah.
happening. I know that I don't remember who, but I know that I for sure had conversations with Bergen about the six. And I know like we were starting to be like, hey, like Sky's starting to be an issue just in terms of like, for me, he and I, Bergen and I had conversations, and I'm sure he was having the same conversations with Sky. That's just, what the game I think Bergen was playing, which is great. I'm not, no shade. Like he was playing a great game. But it was like, I know Sky was starting to become a target for me because everybody was like, Josh and Sky are like two peas in a pod, right? They're running this whole thing. At least that's what people were saying to me. And so we had already been talking of like, hey, maybe we need to sort of start spreading distance, which I think is where you see me lean into Julia come the round that I go home. And I was trying to like diversify. But I'm sure we had conversations about that, Duke. Like I wanted to continue to go further in the game with you. So, but I don't think I would have told Julia that.
Yeah.
I don't think so, but.
One thing I kind of picked up on in just people's confessionals, like no one specifically, at least that I can remember, but a lot of people were pinning me and Dave and Duke together. I would just hear like my name come up as like, oh yeah, no, she's with them, or like they're together. But we did, I know like we did end up on teams together, like enough. I know Duke, there's at least one team I had picked you for. And so like it makes sense. I can't remember if at the time I had picked up on that. But it was weird. It was kind of weird to have like, at this point I would say Dave did feel like an ally, but on the periphery. Yeah, I don't know where I was going with that, but
Dave doing Dave things off on the periphery.
yeah.
It is interesting. Yep. You're seeing some people who kind of have previously been a little more in the background, like Dave, like Maddie, like Charlie, even sort of are starting to come up to the surface as you get fewer and fewer people. And some of the bigger names have been moved out of the way. So it's definitely going to be interesting to see like how people start playing now that, you're down to what, 10, I think now here. So
yeah. Another thing I wanted to ask you about, Duke. Earlier episodes, there are, so just about you and Lance. So, there's quite a few scenes where it's just you two talking, nothing, no like super in-depth strategy, but like, just checking in with each other, during like the strategy portion of a round or whatever. And there's a couple of episodes in between, like where I'm thinking, and episode 9. Was there anything that happened that was there a disconnect there, or did just a game relationship didn't build to the point where, we see Lance say, I don't really have a game relationship with Duke. What I saw starting to, maybe blossom into a game relationship in the beginning. What happened there? Like yeah.
Yeah. Lance was somebody that I was hesitant towards working with in the beginning of the game because I had felt pretty threatened by Lance. I thought that I feel like I've seen Lance like he was one of the only people that I've seen around the community maybe. And I was like, he's very charismatic, very funny, obviously. And I'm more of a low key kind of guy. So, I was a little bit threatened by Lance, but I felt like more bonded to him during the round that we blindsided Debbie, basically, because we were, posted up on that wall for a minute. And I felt like we kind of bonded in, the trenches, basically. And we kind of came together on that vote. And so I was like, I felt good with Lance we just never really got deep into strategy talk. And that's something that I do regret, because I think that myself and Lance could have worked well together. And I think in this vote where I'm voted out, I never wanted to go for Lance. I wanted to go for German, and then you see me try to go for Charlie, because I felt like me and Lance could work together, especially if we were to both make it into an individual portion, because I felt like we would be seen as big physical dudes. And obviously he's a huge social threat as well. So I felt like he would be a great ally to have. So I didn't want to go for him in my vote out. But I never built the strong enough connection for him not to vote me out, I guess.
Yeah, no, that totally makes sense. And because I really did get the vibe that like you two could work really well together, and there was just like the start of like it could be the start of something great. And it's probably like the Debbie round that I'm thinking of. I just couldn't like place it in the timeline, but I'm like there was something there. But I think the game moves fast.
I think him and our personalities, once I got to know him a little bit more, I think Josh, you were there when in the safety chain, we were all in the safe room and we kind of bonded. I think you mentioned it on one of these. I really dug, I was digging Lance. I was like, I was rocking with him. So at that point I was like, I think I may have fucked up in the beginning, not trying to work with him a little bit more. But,
I was very grateful for that opportunity as well, because like the people who were in that room, like German and Corian and Lance, and I hadn't really got a chance to get to know German a bit more because we had voted together and worked together, but Corian and Lance specifically, like I said this many times, we were like two ships in the night. Like we just were never on the same team. We never were voting for the same person. Like the game just never allowed us to have that time to build that relationship because we always were on opposite ends of the house. And so I was grateful for that time because we got to chat about life, and it felt like a pause from the game for a few minutes and just like talk about whatever, and people's personalities really came out. And I remember specifically talking about like relationships and partners, and we all kind of got to share our stories about who we were dating and past relationship stuff, and it just felt like a really meaningful connection. And so Lance outside of the game arena was amazing, and I loved conversing with him. And I remember sitting down very post game and watching like RuPaul's Drag Race with Corian and Lance, and I was like, this is so fun because we get to just hang out. But in the game people are very different. Like if you're not on the same page, it's really hard to get there because the rounds just move so fast, and you're like, if you're not on the same team, well, you're not really working together.
Yeah. I feel like for me, like at this point in the game, German and I, like, we just haven't been on a team yet where we're like voting or like being able to, whatever. So we just don't really have that relationship. And you kind of see him, even when he's not in the vote, he's like, so what about Sam though? I remember my mom texted me, why is German saying your name? Isn't he not voting? My mom's tuned in.
I know, Mom. Why is he doing that?
Yeah. All right. Well, I think that's like everything in this episode. Like, I don't know. I don't think there's anything that.
Shit.
Oh, I found a power at some point. I think I found it like the night before, but I mentioned it in a confessional, I think, in this episode. So I can bench 2 people.
Congrats.
From a captain's challenge.
Congrats on the find.
Thank you. Laundry room find, yeah.
There were a couple in there, and I never found anything.
Yeah.
But I looked,
I saw laundry in there.
Oh.
Somebody must have gotten there before me.
Is there anything else, Duke, I guess, while we have you? I know we had you a few weeks back on one episode, but is there anything that happened in the episodes between then and now that like stands out to you as something that you wanted to talk about, or anything else from your Ascendance time?
I'll just say like an overarching kind of thing for me. This was definitely a huge bucket list item for me to get out there and play this specific game. Just because this was my introduction into this kind of community, was Ascendance, the online version. So to get to play the game in real life was great. And it really tested me because I am a guy that likes to go to bed at like 11 p.m. every night. I like to wake up and I like to eat pretty much the same stuff. And not to say that the food was not great, because the food was great, but I just did not feel like eating during this stressful time. I lost a decent amount of weight actually during the course of the game because I was like not eating, not sleeping well. But it was such a great challenge for me, and I'm so happy that I did it and stepped outside of, the comfort zone. I'm a pretty introverted person, but once I get to know people, I can be pretty social with them. So this was a huge, great thing for me, and I really enjoyed the experience. And yeah, this show, the after show, has been fun to watch. Some of these people kind of, just chopping it up too. So this has been great.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for your time. Thank you for coming on and chatting with us. And, I'm going to keep saying it, but thank you for giving us a home to post
Yes.
On Lost at Sea. And me and Josh will be here. Every time there's an episode, there's going to be an after show.
You guys have been great. You guys have been great. I've loved the content. You guys have
awesome.
really been
Well,
good.
thank you so much.
Thank you. We've had a lot of fun with it, and everybody's been such good sports about it, and getting to come on and not holding back. So we can't do it without the guests coming on and like actually giving us content. So I mean, Sam and I could sit here and talk for hours, but it wouldn't be as enjoyable, I don't think.
Yeah. All right. Well, okay. So I'm going to ask a favor of everybody who's watching. If you've made it this far, just throw a like on this video. Tell us who you're rooting for in the comments, and subscribe to the channel if you're not already. I also will link the episode that we're currently talking about in the description box too. And so if you haven't gone and liked the episode or subscribed to the Ascendance channel, please, it helps so much. Just kind of get the word out and
getting close to 2K.
I was gonna say that Ascendance.
We're so close.
So close. We need just a handful.
2K challenge.
Who's going to be the 2K subscriber? Who's going to be the 2000th?
If you want season 6, I'm just saying we need those subscribers.
Yes, actually, okay. I'm putting out a challenge it's really close. So like, if you are the 2000th member, to subscribe, take a screenshot and send it to me. And I don't know, I don't have a prize, but you will get internet points and my undying gratitude. All right. But on that note,
it says 1.9 thousand. So I don't know how close we are to that 2000, but
yeah,
there's only one way to find out, Josh.
Yeah,
and that's by subscribing.
You gotta go subscribe.
How many times can we plug that? I think we've done it about 6 times already.
All right. Well, on that note, I hope everyone had a good time listening to this, and I hope everyone has a good night. Bye.